Today's On Campus from the Press Box on the Right Team podcast is brought to you by East Texas Baptist University, located in Marshall, Texas. ETBU offers a university experience built on academic excellence, nationally known athletics, and a strong foundation of faith and community. It's a place where students are challenged every day to grow, lead, and serve. Learn more about life on the Hill in Marshall at etbu.edu. Okay, we gave a little bit of a tease about the games last night. Of course, let's start with the UMBC versus Howard game. Matt, your thoughts on that and the bracket updates that come from that.
Well, and we've shared on here. I don't like this game because the loser, I don't feels like they were actually in the tournament, but it was a great game. Howard had the big lead. UMBC comes roaring back. I was really actually drawn to the last few minutes of that, which I'll be honest, usually that 16-16 game on Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm just not all that engaged in. Big one for Howard. I know that puts them with a win, a postseason win, NCAA tournament win in their ledger. It ends there. I do not see a world where any of these number one seeds. I know in the last 7 or 8 years we've actually seen two number ones go down. I don't see that happening this year. But a great game nonetheless. High scoring game. A lot of times those 16-16 games, you'll see some kind of ugly slugfest of 61-59 or something. Those teams were filling it up. It was a good game.
I was too. I was kind of dipping in and out there with that in the baseball game. Just trying to keep up with both at the same time. I'm like you. It's just really hard to think you're watching an NCAA tournament game when you're watching these games on Tuesday night. But they made it as entertaining as it possibly could be. I'll be honest to you. I had to actually Google what UMBC actually meant. That's Maryland of Baltimore County. Never even heard of that school before.
You should have. Yeah. They were the first 16 seed to beat a 1. They beat Virginia.
I don't remember that. I do not remember that. You are the expert in the room when it comes to college basketball. Remember, I thought Howard was pretty steady, but I agree with you. They're not going to put up much of a fight in Michigan. So enjoy your win last night, Bison. It was a good one. You want to always have those when you're playing to get in, but it ends, I think, on Thursday for sure.
Agreed.
Okay, let's move on to the game of the night. And I will say this, Texas and NC State gave us a second really nail-biting game last night. It was a little bit too nail-biting if you're a Longhorns fan. I can attest to that down the stretch. I was not shocked to see that, to be honest. It's been happening all year. And look, I've been fortunate enough to be around enough basketball, at ETBU, following it for 12 years and working with the coaches there to know that these kinds of things can happen. But especially when your team is just – and they're just not good enough consistently to depend on. Right. And coaches see that too, and they know that, and they have to continue to coach and try to get this team to where you want them to get to. And that's the frustrating part of it as a coach. But you know that you're not playing with a full deck in terms of talent and ability and knowledge of the game. And that was on display last night, man. You just saw first year Texas Longhorns under Sean Miller last night. He has not built his program yet, but he has coached him up enough to be able to, again, hold off a really good NC State. Mm-hmm. They're probably just as frustrated as we are with our basketball team this season, right?
Well, of course, and they're with the first-year head coach, Will Wade, coming over from McNeese State. He's going to build something there. He did it at LSU. He did it at McNeese State. I do want to say, if you remember, Texas was in this spot last year and they lost. So already Sean Miller has shown improvement in the first year. But right. I really want to give a shout-out. I was happy for this guy, Tremont Mark, who hit the game winner, and he also had the previous basket, which was a really clutch one. He's in his second year at Texas. I don't know if you know where he transferred from. Arkansas. He had a year at Arkansas. Prior to that, he went to a Final Four with Houston. So he's had a long journey. But, his year at Arkansas, he was an elite player for us in Musselman's last year, and it all for a variety of reasons that I really don't necessarily blame Tremont Mark at all. It just, that season tanked quickly. It felt like Musselman gave up on us. He quickly flees out to USC, and it all ends up working out great because we get John Calipari. But Tremont Mark left. He was out as he should. I mean, it was kind of a train wreck. It was kind of a mess. He goes to Texas last year. I think they probably had higher expectations after a good year the year before. And all they get in is this first 4 game. And then you hire a new coach. And of course that's a rebuild. And now he's stuck with another new coach. It would have been understandable if he just kind of mailed it in and decided, I'm pretty old. I'm in like my 5th or 6th year. I'm probably not a draft prospect. This is it for basketball. And no, he willed his team to a victory last night when it was all falling apart. So I was really impressed by him, and I was happy for him too.
The thing that's going to ultimately hurt Texas here, and I mentioned it yesterday, they're a dangerous team. They're a team that if they play well enough, they can beat you on any given night.
Yeah.
The problem is they're not consistent enough to really be that much of a threat, but they are dangerous.
Yeah.
And you could see that at points last night in the game where, they had a couple of opportunities there to really pull away. And they just weren't good enough to do it. Good teams would have found a way to make that game literally not as close as it was. The biggest problem they have is depth. They only go 3 deep on their bench. That's going to be tough flying all the way out to Portland and having to play tomorrow night against AJ Dybantsa and BYU. That's just the reality of the situation. I do think that they can compete if they play their best, but at some point I just wonder how this 8-man rotation that they have going on is when it's going to raise its ugly head and ultimately be the end of it. But I did want to mention, of course, Dalen Swain is probably their best player. The Boca Titus kid on the inside is pretty good. Of course, Swain followed Miller from Xavier last year. And I wanted to get your opinion on what you think of him, because I see him as a very sneaky, really nice pick in the NBA draft, maybe in that just right outside the lottery area, 12 to 20. Somebody can get a really good ball player in that spot, picking there with somebody like him.
He strikes me as a guy that he needs to get in the right situation. And that's the difference between, for me, being a bona fide can't miss lottery pick and maybe where he'll be, because, you look at Dybantsa, you look at Darius Acuff, to an extent, Boozer, although Boozer's physicality, he's not going to be more physical than everybody in the NBA like he is in college. But he's still obviously an all-American, all-world talent. Those guys, I don't know that it matters where they go. Their game is going to translate. I feel like Swain is still maybe a little more raw and not quite as polished as what I'm seeing from those other guys. And so I think if he gets in a situation where people aren't like, you're our first round pick, everything's on you right now, we need you to kind of get us back. As long as he can avoid a situation like that, I could see that being a really good pick for somebody, for sure.
Well, I would love to see him come back for his senior year. I think he could use it. And I think he could develop more into maybe not a lottery pick, but again, a very high first round draft pick that could help somebody in the right situation. But I agree, he's very raw. And there are some parts of his game he still needs to work on, but yeah, with him and Tremont Mark playing the way they did last night, when Boca Titus fouled out, especially, for a one game kind of thing, that's a dangerous team that you'd have to face, because they can light it up.
I think it'll be a great matchup between them and BYU. Yeah.
So that takes place on Thursday night in the first round of the NCAA tournament there in Portland, I believe is where that is. But anyway, it's more of a home game, of course, for BYU than it will be for Texas. That's a long way to go, but the Horns are still swimming with the big fish in the NCAA tournament. So congratulations to my guys. Okay, let's take a quick look here now at the first four for the women, which takes place tonight. Of course, we do have a local East Texas team involved in this. That is the SFA Lady Jacks. Will be taking on Missouri State this evening at the Moody Center in Austin at 8 o'clock. SFA comes into this game as the Southland Tournament champ at 25-9. Missouri State at 22-12. ESPN, Matt, gives Missouri State a 62% chance to win this one. Just kind of a stat dive here real quickly for SFA. Their leading scorer is Key Roseby. She's averaging just over 13 points a game, 6.7 rebounds. She is a 6-foot post from Frisco. And then for Missouri State, Keeman Beekamer is their leading scorer at 17.4 points per game. She's also averaging 8.2 rebounds a game, and she's a 5'9" guard from up there in Missouri. Of course, the winner of this game will nail down that 16 seed and have the right to stay in Austin for a couple of days and take on the number 1 Texas Lady Horns. So good luck to SFA tonight. I was a little surprised looking at the records here that Missouri State, have a basically 60-40 chance to win this one. That's probably coming from quality of play overall, maybe in the Southland, I would think, right?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Another one of those games, and I kind of view it the same as the men's with that 16 versus 16. I do like the fact that it's kind of a local team, obviously going to be rooting for them. But yeah, it feels like it feels like you're competing to which cow is going to be the first one to be slaughtered, essentially, is what it is. But yeah, excited for SFA.
I was in school at Northwestern. Oh my gosh. Back in the mid 90s, SFA was right there with Northwestern in terms of, that was our big rival, Natchitoches to Nacogdoches kind of thing. And SFA was real good back then, man, really good in women's basketball. And they've stayed fairly consistent over the years, and it's good to see them back. I'd like to see them win this one and at least get the chance to play Texas. That'd be a big deal. Of course, the other first four preview going on tonight is Nebraska from the Big Ten, 18-12, taking on Richmond, which is 26-7. The winner will play number 6 Baylor Friday afternoon at Cameron Indoor Stadium there in Durham, North Carolina. Nebraska is a slight favorite in this one, according to ESPN. Don't know a whole lot about Big Ten women's basketball. I'm not going to pretend I do, nor do I know a whole lot about A10 women's basketball. So I'm going to take ESPN's word for it and on my bracket pick Nebraska, just coming from the bigger league. Okay, that's again the preview for tonight's women's game, which starts their tournament officially this evening. Matt, did you see this yesterday? This story I pulled from FoxSports.com about this. Well, not only is a Michigan star, I believe he's the Big Ten Player of the Year. Michigan's Yaxel Lendeborg.
Yep.
Had you heard this story before?
I read it yesterday. I didn't know it. I read it yesterday. It's kind of crazy.
Well, according to him, he almost transferred to Kentucky because they allegedly, according to him, when he was in the transfer portal, started with a number of $7 million and were offering up to $9 million for him to come to Kentucky in NIL money. Now, I don't have any official figures in front of me, but I believe that's more than any quarterback is making in football. The last number I saw as far as Arch Manning, who I believe is the highest paid college quarterback, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 million, somewhere around in there. But man, if this guy's bringing in 9 million, what kind of recruiting pitch did Michigan put on there to land him with the Wolverines?
I'm saying, man, my gracious.
Let's see here. Then this story again, it's on Fox Sports from yesterday. He's in his 6th season. That could be a big deal. He's in the 6th season as a college player. He played the first 3 at Arizona Western, transferred to UAB for 2 seasons, and now he's in his 6th season after earning All-American honors at UAB. So he's playing in his 6th year. He's at Michigan as a, quote, senior. And he's making reportedly between $2.2 to $3 million in salary. Look,
Wow.
either Michigan has got a tremendous recruiting advantage here, or this kid's really not being truthful. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm just saying it's really hard to believe that he would turn down $9 million to go to Kentucky to play basketball.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say, Kentucky is, and they still have a chance to make some noise. I could see them doing it, but Kentucky underachieved this year. They spent a lot of money on that roster, and it's what are we, 20-13? They're a 7 seed. You're still in the tournament. You still got a shot. I'm not saying they can't. I could see them going to the Sweet 16, but it wouldn't surprise me if it found out that they did throw that much. Look, Yaxel Lendeborg was the top guy out of the portal. That dude was throwing up regularly like 30 points, 15 rebounds at UAB. I mean, just a physically gifted, but could kind of do it all, 6'8" kind of guy. But Dusty May at Michigan is a real deal head coach. If you can take Florida Atlantic and build them into a Final Four team, you're a really, really good coach. And I'll tell you right now, I've heard Mark Pope. I think he's a good coach. I've heard Dusty May. If I got those two dudes doing a pitch to me, I'm going to play for Dusty May. That's just me. So it's possible that's what happened right there. But you know how it is with these stories. The truth's probably somewhere in between, and we'll never know.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it. And look, kudos to this kid if he did turn that down to go where his heart was, right? I mean, most kids wouldn't do that. I don't know, man. It's if so, that's a super down to earth player who is going to do it old school and go to the place where he's actually feels like he's going to be coached up better and take less money in today's world of NIL for sure. Okay, closing out our on-campus section here. Probably should have mentioned this in Moneyball. I think I put it on the wrong spot in my notes, but I do want to mention here that next Friday, March 27th, just kind of a programming note, Matt, I'm going to unveil my first NFL mock draft as we get set for the April 23rd, 25th draft coming up in Pittsburgh. And I'll lead more into that next week, but I do these, or I've been doing these similar to what you do with the NCAA bracketology. I kind of do these for fun. And unlike you, I've never really gotten close. I don't think many people do with these things, but I'm going to have some fun with it. So we'll start kind of sharing that next week and talk about it as we get closer to the NFL draft. But I'm going to drop my first one for you guys next week. So be sure to tune in for that. I want to thank ETBU as always again for sponsoring our on-campus segment of Here from the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. Thank you guys for your support.